Hello, everyone. Welcome to my live discussion for the 1619 project, where we read chapters 4 through 7. The first chapter was called Fear. The fifth chapter, it was Dispossession. The sixth chapter was Capitalism, and chapter 7 was Politics. And I'm not going to lie, I just finished chapter 7, and yeah. Now, I'm not gonna lie, reading this book it gives you a lot of facts, but it also like made me so mad of how the US, the country that I live in, is just a complete total mess, and how it was built and the strategies they have done and are still doing in order to for people to not be able to vote or not be able to gain anything or to have some type of wealth, especially for the Black community. Um, so for the chapter 4, it's called Fear. It goes right into when May 25th of 2020, um, when George Floyd was forced to the ground and he died. Um, and it talks about how literally it says Black people are significantly more likely to be killed by the police than white people. And that is an absolute fact. Um, and I don't know why people disagree with this statement, but I feel like it's sort of obvious, and is evident that that is the case, and this fact stands true. Hold on. Hey Bree, how are you? But I just thought about this chapter a lot because we see a lot of this going on and on and on. And it's, how can I say this? It just heartens me that this is still something that's happening, and it's 2023 right now. We're still dealing with police brutality. And for this first chapter where it talks about fear, it talks about how when America was built, they feared us. They feared us to uh, rebel against them. And of course, there were a lot of rebellions at the time, um, but they made it so where they they put this fear not only because they feared that we would just take over, but they wanted to ingrain fear in us with them and the repercussions we would go through. Um, but for this particular time, and also it talks about Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. I remember that. And the police officer, he didn't get charged for killing him whatsoever. And then literally we had Philando Castile who was shot and killed. The officers, they weren't found guilty, or excuse me, no officers were found guilty at all for that as well. And then we have Breonna Taylor, and that also made me upset because even with the people that killed her, the officers, I think one was writing a book or something. I could be wrong. I don't know if they stopped that because I know a lot of people, there was a lot of outrage with that book. Um, but this chapter, it broke my heart, and like how everything is taking place, and Floyd's death, and Derek Chauvin, whatever the police officer's name is, which I think he's still trying to get an appeal or whatever, from what I'm mistaken. And then it talks about Ahmaud Arbery, who was just literally running in his neighborhood, and just two white men came up and just killed him and attacked him. Um, and it's just like they said that there's progress, but I feel like progress is not happening. It's regressing, if that makes sense. Hello, and it's obvious that police kill more blacks than whites, even though the US doesn't keep good data or mandate accurate reporting. I think it's still optional. Yeah. But even before all this, you had, well, of course, with Trayvon Martin, he was also a victim of this, by and killed by George Zimmerman, who was supposed to be watching the neighborhood and found him to be suspicious just because he's black. And it's sad. Like literally, if we walk in a grocery store, if we walk in some type of retail, people will start following us, thinking we're going to steal something. That's happened to me a couple times. Um, And it's really sad how the world, at least in the US, has not changed at all. But it also talks about, or brings up Emmett Till as well. And that broke my heart too, especially yesterday. The woman that accused him died yesterday. And my thoughts, I had some really crazy thoughts in my head about that woman, particularly. I felt like she should have died in jail. That's my honest opinion, especially since there was a warrant for her that they found, and the family wanted her to go to jail, but nothing happened to her. I thought that was, you know, since she's white, she has the privilege of not, of not going to jail. But if she was black, she would have been in jail. She would have been in jail the day that happened, right? But it's not the case. Let me see. Hey, Elises, how are you? The officer that killed her was just hired as a deputy officer in another city in the same state. Yes, you are right, Elises. I just saw that, and that made me also upset and pissed me off because that officer should not be able to get any type of employment at all. I find that really weird. Like, how is he able to get that job? How is he able to? And even in the same state, it's that privilege. It's the privilege. Even it talks about James Baldwin, where it says, as James Baldwin explained a half century earlier, when any white man in the world says, give me liberty or give me death, the entire white world applauds. When a black man says exactly the same thing, word for word, he is judged a criminal and treated like one. And everything possible is done to make an example of this bad, it says N word, so there won't be any more like him. And that really, it's troublesome. It bothered me so much. And even says the glaring double standard reflects a centuries-old pattern in which black strivings for liberation have been demonized, criminalized, and subjected to persecution, while white people's demands for liberty are deemed rational, legitimate, and largely unthreatening. And just even think about what happened at the Capitol a couple of years ago. And like a lot of in the black community, we all agree that if it was black people that did that, there would have been bloodshed. And the people that attacked the Capitol and destroyed it entirely, put feces all over the walls, they maybe stayed in jail for like a couple of months and then they were free to go. So just with that example alone, you could see the privilege and all that. Let me see. And on the Hulu special, it shows Ahmaud getting harassed by police on another occasion. Yeah, I still am going down. I've watched the first 2 episodes on Hulu. I still have to watch the other ones. I'm trying to watch it slowly because it's just a lot. And it just makes me angry and upset of just this country in general. And it makes me realize like how I really don't want to be in America anymore. Good evening. I haven't had the chance to read it yet, but I'm looking forward to the discussion. Oh, thank you for joining. I'm not going to try to, there's a lot to unpack. I'm not going to like discuss maybe for another, I usually go for an hour to discuss this book because there's a lot to take in. And I just was upset the entire time. Yes, they would have bombed us. Yes, they would. They would have killed us all. I mean, technically, we wouldn't even made it in the building. Let's be honest. We wouldn't even, we probably wouldn't even made it to the steps. And I can't take it. I can't take the fact how they make black people seem as we're the dangerous ones, how we are the ones that people should watch out for. I don't like that at all. I can't stand it. And especially back then during the propaganda they would use, especially for like during the presidencies and stuff like that, of how keep your children close to you. Black people are going to come and get you and slit your throats in your sleep and all this other stuff. You see literally like pictures and stuff of propaganda like that back then as well, and how black people are deemed to look like we're criminals. But if a white person does that exact same crime, it's considered something different. so I can't say this. So, like, even for this is modern day policing, surveillance, and mass criminalization, as well as white vigilante violence and know your place aggression, have histories rooted in white fear, not merely of black crime or black people, but of black liberation. Nothing has proved more threatening to our democracy or more devastating to black communities than white fear of black freedom dreams. And and the thing is, we don't ask for much. Of course, we want our reparations because that is something that is a must. That I feel like that is a must have for the Black community, because the Black community, we have built this country on our backs. Our ancestors, my ancestors, has built this country on their backs with their sweat, blood, and tears. Their family, they have been displaced. They've been taken away from their families, their homeland where they originally were from. Like, you have to do something, but they won't let us do that because they don't want us to have any type of power. You could tell, like, when it comes to our black owned businesses, it talks about it in this book. I forget which chapter, but it talks about literally how, like, during the 2008 recessions, they made sure that certain companies would succeed but other companies to fail, and particularly black owned businesses to fail, because they don't want us to succeed at all. It's not privilege, it's racism outright. Right. Yes. That state is holding on tight to the system based on racism. Yes. And a lot more states are doing the exact same thing. You think, look what Mississippi, look at Jackson and what they're trying to do. They're not even trying to, they're not even, sorry, got distracted. Got a text message notification on my computer, but they are trying to have their own type of voting system and their own type of government. They're thinking outside the box, in order to control the city of Jackson in its own. I need to read a little bit more of it, but a lot of states, they're trying to wiggle and do some wiggle room where they avoid other stuff and they create their own type of voting system and stuff like that. It's a hot mess. I know Texas is doing it. I mean, you see what Florida is doing. And it's a shame because Ron, I think he was here not long, like a couple days ago or something. I don't remember. Ron DeSantis, and just look at what he is doing right now. He is not only saying woke this, woke that, when you don't even understand what the word means, but he's making sure that not just Black people, but people who want to have the option of learning Black history, American history, that he just makes sure he erases it, that no one has access to it. They can't have access in their schools. They can't have access in their libraries. They can't have access nowhere. At colleges, he's trying to get rid of the fraternities and sororities because it's considered diversity. So he's just trying to strip every single thing. But I find it very, very interesting because his parents were immigrants. So it's really funny his way of thinking is. And and also a lot of people are buying his book. I talked to one of my customers. They said they don't like Ron DeSantis, but they want to read his book because they feel that he might give information out, and probably thinking that Black folks don't really read. Which sometimes, I mean, that is the case where they really, like, a lot of government, anybody in the government, they'll write shit in their books where they think we won't find out the information. Shoot, the internet does wonders for us when we try to research stuff. But for this first chapter, I really couldn't stand it. And I mean, think about Jim Crow and the Black codes back then as well. That was also another thing where they made sure we didn't have access to certain things. And even on here, let's see, it says, in an effort to reinforce universal white authority over Black people, lawmakers also empowered all white people to pursue, apprehend, and moderately correct any Black person who refused to submit their authority. If any enslaved persons tried to defend themselves, they could be lawfully killed. And this happened earlier this month. My husband, Keandre, just brought this up to me. It happened here in Columbus at one of our hospitals. where a guy was brought in because he was passed out outside the hospital or whatever. They brought him in, and next thing you know, they have police surrounding him with guns like at him. And yes, he had a gun on him. It went off, but he didn't shoot the gun. He said that multiple times, and he really was in the hospital because he needed help because he was passed out. So he'd done nothing wrong. And they literally kept saying, put your hands up, put your hands up. And he says, I can't, my arm. And then he was saying that I'm scared that you're going to shoot me. Just please calm down. Do not shoot me. And then literally as he moved, they shot him 20 times. 20 times. I mean, I feel like the taser thing, like that's not even the first option anymore. It's literally they take their guns out and they just shoot. Period. No retaliation whatsoever. And that's another problem. They feel like us Black folks, like we're like, even when this country was, people, they found it's whatever. They treated us like we were nothing but animals, cattle, livestock. And I know a lot of people still feel that, have that same way of thinking. And it's heartbreaking. It's just so heartbreaking. And then let me see. There's so much I could go on about with this. It talks about Thomas Jefferson with his racist ass. Like, that's another problem I have. Like, you know how in certain states we took down the statues or whatever, whatnot. I know for a fact Thomas Jefferson's portraits and stuff are still in like the Capitol building and the White House in particular. And I'm trying to figure out why that is. All the founding fathers, literally, we are still, the system that they have built, we are still living on the same system to this day. To this very day, who owned slaves, raped them, killed them, did whatever they wanted to do with them. And we still, for some reason, we still go on talking about Thomas Jefferson and yada yada yada. I could care less. It's all about the structure within this system that we are still following to this day that I have a problem with. Oops. And then like, even if I skip into, hold on, I'm trying to find it, where, let me see, it talks about what if we had this certain structure. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Because I had wrote in it and everything. Sorry, y'all. I tabbed up this book a lot. Tanks, military. There's no way they could have let us do all that at the Capitol. No way. I agree, A. Davis. No way. That would have never, ever happened. Ever. Hello, Delisa. I'm shaking my head. Yep. In the hospital? Yes. In the freaking hospital at St. Anne's. In the hospital. And the exact date, I believe, was April 12th is what happened. And we're just now releasing all the information a couple days ago. And right now there is protesting for that. And I was upset because my husband had sent me that. And I'm like, why did you send me this? This is just going to make me upset. It's going to piss me off because I just want, it just makes me be in so much rage. And I'm like, when are we all, especially the Black community, when are we all just going to stop letting them like stand on our necks? Like, I feel like you keep poking the bear and eventually everybody's just going to snap. Okay. Everybody's going to snap. Yeah, but tasers cause heart attacks. None of these things are good. This is just insane. I feel like we are in a dystopian novel. Yeah, and that's true. That is true. It does cause heart attacks. It's like we can't win. Like, we're always a threat. If you think about what happened to Ralph in Kansas City recently, where he went to the wrong house to pick up his brothers, and the guy literally shot him in the head. And all he did was just ring the damn doorbell. And then, what was his name? Andrew Lester. They didn't arrest him until like the next day. So he was able to be in his house, in his bed, and sleep at night peacefully. That's also a problem that I have, is the double standard shit. I have a problem with that. I can't stand this. Ugh, I can't stand it. I can't. I can't. And then when we protest, they cause it's a problem. But it's a peaceful protest. But then when you had Donald Trump calling to arms and with the Proud Boys, you saw what happened with that too. When we are peacefully protesting, a white person in particular comes in and starts violence. That's all I'm going to say with that. Let me see. I'm just over the fact that they look at us as if we are the most violent people ever, when technically they are. Think of the history of how this country was built. Slavery, removal of indigenous people off of their land. It talks about that in the next chapter. They removed them. They talk about the revolution because America or whatever wanted to disband from Britain, from the British. It's just this history that this country has. It's a lot of bloodshed, and it's disheartening. Founding fathers, more like the fondling fathers, right? And even the documents they created, like with the Constitution and all that, I feel like a lot of things have to be rewritten in order for things to get solved and to be better, in order for Black and brown people to have equality when we can just walk down the street and everything without people thinking that we're a threat, you know? But that has been ingrained in this country for so long. I don't think anybody is willing to take that leap of faith and to change this system. It says, let's see, like even the statement, it says, while some Black people have benefited from the social and policy changes brought by the civil rights movement, in many respects, things have gotten worse for Black communities since that report was published, with so many more Black people in prison, on probation or parole, and subject to legal discrimination due to criminal records. So it's just unjust. Everything they do is unjust. But let me find this one statement here. I'm trying to find it, where I believe I told y'all, like, during the election, it was for the Democratic Party. I have voted for Bernie because I liked his way of thinking, and he was different from what we have seen in the government. Because he's a socialist. Hold on, I'm trying to find it, y'all. And it's funny how it brought it up in this particular book about it. Yeah, so this was for chapter. This is what chapter. Let me see. This was on chapter 6 for capitalism, and this is on page 181. And it says this: had socialism taken root in America, perhaps the country would have adopted a kind of social democratic capitalism that combined a market-based economy with big state investments in public education and social welfare programs. Perhaps workers' wages would be considerably higher and CEO compensation considerably lower. Income inequality decreases when unionization increases as a result of organized labor fighting for better pay for the rank and file and keeping employer power in check. But socialism never flourished here, and a defining feature of American capitalism is the country's relatively low level of labor power. So it talks about just with inequality, just as far as capitalism, and how everything's rooted for pretty much the rich people. It's not for us. It even gives examples. It's like, so it says in Iceland, 90% of wage and salaried workers belong to trade unions authorized to fight for living wages and fair working conditions. In Italy, 34% of workers are unionized, as are 26% of Canadian workers, but only 10% of American wage and salaried workers carry union cards. The United States remains the sole advanced democracy missing a labor party. one dedicated at least in original conception to representing the interests of the working classes. So they make sure there's inequality as far as the working class goes. And it also brought up another fact that I had no idea was the case. Like, there was a certain fact in here, I'm trying to look for it, where it talks about taxation for certain big companies. Hold on, let me follow these up. We have to talk about that whole section. I have thoughts. The fact that Britain was one of the first countries to abolish slavery but funded slavery in the U.S. Right. Exactly. Exactly, Ulysses. Exactly. I don't get it. How that one family were free and bought their land only for these trifling people to come and steal it. Right. They literally removed them from their land. And it also talks about how, like, because just with that section alone, it talks about how black people and indigenous people came together, where they had, they were together, they had marriages or whatever. And I thought of my great grandmother who was a Blackfoot. And my mother said that she had stories about it and stuff like that. And I wish somebody had wrote it down or recorded that at the time, because I would have loved to know more information about her and about her background and how she, how she became a Blackfoot, her father and her mother and everything like that. Because you had the Trail of Tears, and literally as they removed them from their land, they were literally moving during the winter where it was cold. And a lot of them died from that, disease, fatigue, everything, because they were removed from their land and they trusted Britain. But when we separated, that's when the U.S. decided to do their own thing and take away their land. And I honestly feel like we need to fight back for getting their land back as well. I think that is a thing where we should definitely try to fight for, because that they illegally did it, but they made it seem like it was legal to do. Let me see if I can find it, because let me see, because they were trying to justify it when they removed them, and I'm trying to find the page where they said that since they were considered a people or whatever, that they were able to take their land from them. Let me see. I can't find it. Let me see. Oh, yes, right here. So this was on page 141 where they justified their actions. Let me see. It says the Americans inherited a grab bag of strategies for dealing with indigenous people from the English, who had generally viewed native nations as separate political bodies with prior occupancy of the soil. But the British also saw native people as unchristian, heathens, and as savages who had not actually developed the land in a civilized manner that would qualify them as rightful owners. Then it says the doctrine of discovery, a long-standing belief that Christian nations had the right to rule over non-Christian nations and their property, helped justify English imperialism despite prior native presence. English officials, as well as private buyers, purchased indigenous land by contract while also grabbing land through manipulation, coercion, and outright seizure in the aftermath of war. Because the English subscribed to the principles of the rule of law and the primary of property rights, they used isolated crimes by native men as rationalizations for large-scale attacks on native communities. I highlighted that because I'm like, what the fuck? Seriously? Just because somebody doesn't abide to your doctrine, that you decided, like, oh, well, since they're not considered Christian and they're considered heathens and savages, they don't need this land. They don't have any right to this land. And that pissed me off too. That did it for me. I was upset. I literally, I wanted to throw the book and I just had to step away for a second. The January 6ers used that taser on the one cop and caused him a heart attack. These people are getting 6 months in jail. Others are getting paroled early or not going to jail at all. Right. Can you say the page number? Thank you for the page number. You're welcome. Yeah, our capitalist system is completely whack. It only flourishes if we exploit people, paying them a wage that they can't live on, and no one, our government, ever talks about it, either party. Right. And that's why I was looking at Bernie, when I voted for him at one time, hoping that he would get, he would be on the ticket. But I just thought it was something different, a different way of thinking as opposed to what has been continuing on for decades and years and years and years as far as our government. And other countries, I know they are laughing at us. They are laughing at us. And I'm embarrassed because how long does it take for someone to make a change in order to realize that what this country has done and what it's still doing to black and brown people and indigenous people, that that is completely wrong. Like in this book, the guy that talked about, who wrote a doctrine or something regarding the Constitution or whatever, he was agreeing with that slavery was good. And he only agreed to it because he was profiting from that. And that made me so sick. Made me sick to my stomach. Yesterday I added "I Will Fight No More Forever" by Chief Joseph to my reading list. I know I'm going to get mad reading that too, pertaining to the Trail of Tears. Yeah. And I'm glad that I'm reading this and that y'all are joining me with these discussions, because I feel like in certain states they're making it impossible for people to have access to books like this. Completely, just 1619 Project, just completely taking it off the shelves where no one can have access to whatsoever. And I just felt like this is the perfect time to talk about these issues and about what's ingrained in our system and in this country as a whole. Indigenous beliefs and cultures are so spiritual. Not one bit of land or animal or plant was used without reverence. Right. But since it didn't fit, but the people that took their land, they were putting them, well, that doesn't fit our doctrine, so yeah, we're gonna kick them off their land. And I'm like, that's bullshit, complete bullshit. And my grandfather, he was never fond of white people at all. Like, he even told me one day, do not bring no white man to his house. And he said that, and he was a wonderful person, do not get me wrong. He said that because of what he saw when he lived in Georgia, which it talks in the book about the Great Migration from the South to the North. And my family's was also part of that. He was from Moultrie, Georgia, and he saw a lot of things, and especially what our family has gone through, and the land that was taken from us, and he was just traumatized by it. And he told me that the white people who he had encountered with in the South were nothing but devils. For anyone to think that way, and for people to treat other people this way just because the color of their skin is different from theirs. And rest his soul. It's just, I feel like if you see that hand to hand, I feel like you would think that way. I didn't judge him for that, because that was his experience and he was traumatized by it, and he had to leave his home in order to have a better place, to have a better life. But even in the North, it was still bad. It was still bad. We're laughing stock. So stupid, right? We are stupid. Like, this country makes no sense whatsoever. Like, literally, like, even for like these big companies and stuff, like, I think I told y'all this, but like during the recession of 2008, they made sure that they were able to still contain their money and that they wouldn't lose their business or whatever. But they made sure small businesses, especially Black-owned businesses, fail. I mean, look at the Tulsa, look at Rosewood, and what they did to those communities. They were Black communities that were striving, and they didn't like it. They didn't like us succeeding, so they made sure to burn our shit down. And I'm not gonna lie, there's been times there's been times where I feel like I'm not even gonna say it. I have like my mind gets so dark when I think about all the shit that our ancestors and what we're still going through today, and it's just like we keep taking it and taking it and taking it, and I'm like, eventually it might not be my generation. Probably be the younger, like Gen Z, probably, who will definitely be the ones to do some damage. That's how I feel right now. They aren't laughing, trust me. They're looking at the U.S. with a combination of the side eye and disbelief. Yeah. Yeah. I just, I always felt like if you made a mistake, we could learn from it. But then again, this country doesn't feel like they have done anything wrong. So they aren't trying to fix it. That is one of my main motivations for reading these books. There must be a reason they don't want us to know what's in there. Right. They don't want us to know our history. Especially they don't want young people, they don't want the younger generation to know not anything. And one girl said, like, yeah, Martin Luther King, he freed the slaves. I'm like, oh God, girl, no. Oh, I'm like, oh my God, no, girl. And it's just, yeah, it's bad. We are so stupid. I just want us to do better. Oh, when Africans revere ancestors, it is called demonic. When they do it, Washington, Franklin, Jefferson, etc., or put their hand over their heart and sing to a piece of cloth, that's patriotism. Yeah. You can't judge people when they've gone through that much trauma. You have to understand them and do what you will with the memories they've shared with you. Yeah. I couldn't blame my grandfather for that, for everything he's seen. And it's sad that we're still seeing stuff like this happen. And now they're trying to make it into like in our taxes and stuff where we're taxed a lot more, we get a lot less money. There's ways where they made it like these big corporations don't have to pay their taxes and whatnot. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, it makes sense. I'm trying to look for it. It was this one thing that I did highlight it, and I'm trying to look for it because it mentioned a couple of corporations and businesses, big businesses that we know that hasn't paid their taxes. That it was like I think 2018. I think I'm trying to find it. Oh man. Hello. Hey guys, I'm at dinner, so can't really participate, but I learned a lot from the disposition and capitalism chapters. Hey Scarlett, yeah, no worries. I hope you enjoy your dinner. Yeah, I have also, there's a lot that I also learned with the disposition and capitalism chapters as well. So yeah, I agree with that. I'm trying to find, can't find it. And these chapters was like, ooh, there's a lot of information. I'm trying to find it. I'm about to be mad, y'all, because I can't find it at all. I'm trying to remember what chapter it was in because I had tabbed it. Here's one. Now this is in the capitalism chapter, where it talks about like the economy and stuff. Yeah, here it is. Here's one. Now, this is not exactly what I was looking for, but this is a good point right here. So it says the United States stands today as one of the most unequal societies in the history of the world. The richest 1% of Americans owns 40% of the country's wealth, while a larger share of working age people, those 18 to 65, live in poverty than in any other nation belonging to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Ain't that some shit for you? Ain't that some shit? The richest 1% of Americans own 40% of the country's wealth. That's a problem. That is a huge problem. Right there. Let's see. I wasn't even surprised about that because that makes complete sense. The richer get richer, the poor get poor. So here it goes. This is what I was looking for that I didn't know about. So it says progressive taxation remains among the best ways to limit economic inequality, funding public services like schools and healthcare and incentivizing business to work for the common good. America's present day tax system, however, is regressive and insipid in part because it was born out of political compromise steered by debates over slavery. This generates inequality and enables large corporations to avoid paying their fair share or any share. It says in 2018, 60 Fortune 500 companies, including Amazon, Chevron, Delta Airlines, and Netflix, paid no federal income taxes. I was like, wait, what? I did not know that. I did not know that. What at all? It also goes on to say that slavery shaped the Constitution in profound and lasting ways. One consequence, writes the historian Robin Earthborn, may well be the exceptionally powerful devotion to individual property rights that made American business stronger, American labor weaker, and the American welfare state a comparative liberty. So literally, like I said, as far as our taxes goes and everything, it still is ingrained to how everything was written back in. Like it hasn't changed. Like not one bit. And I'm still trying to also, like I know Biden just signed a bill. It was regarding your mortgage. And actually, let me look it up before I get to lines, y'all. Because it didn't make sense to me at all. Let me see. So I don't know if it's true or not. I need to read more into it, but it says he signed a bill where it's raising mortgage payments for people with good credit. But I don't understand that particularly because the whole point of somebody to get good credit is to make sure they don't have to put so much down. But I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out about that. If y'all know more information about that particular bill that passed it, that is going to be active May 1st, let me know. But I was trying to get a better understanding of that. So if you have a higher credit score, your mortgage is going to be more. But yeah, I don't understand it. So let me know if one of y'all understand it. I was just wondering. I was curious to his goal for that particular bill. But let me know. But I just felt like it seemed a little bit like a disadvantage for anybody. But who knows? Let me see. I knew a lot of the capitalism stuff because I've read it and heard economists who are progressive speak on this. Okay, gotcha. People are pissed about the new Biden bill, but are not trying to understand the backstory on it. Okay. Yeah, I need to know more about it. I probably need to do more research about it, but I was completely confused to what the goal is, what is the purpose of this. Because I know even for me, my husband and I, we want to get a house. Not right now. The housing market is just not great. But we're making sure our credit scores are good or whatever. And since we're married, they're going to go with the person that has, I guess, the lowest credit score. So we're just trying to make sure both our credit scores are spectacular. But with this bill, I'm thinking to myself, like, is it bad to have a good credit score? Like, I don't know. So it's like I need to do my research on it. Watch old Malcolm X or Fannie Hammer clips and others like the James Baldwin debate or Tony Brown's journal. What they talked about then, we still talk about now. That says all you need to know. Okay, thank you. When it comes to credit, the goal is to prove to the lender that you don't need the money. Then they'll lend it to you. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. But yeah, it seems like they don't want us to win, y'all. And I think we all know that. This country does not want us to win. They don't want us to succeed. And it's hard. It just breaks my heart. Like, let me see. I'm trying to find another one. Like it says here, America has evolved into one of the world's most inequitable societies. Today, the richest 10% of Americans own over 75% of the country's wealth, with the top 1% owning well over a third. Many of the political systems, legal arrangements, cultural beliefs, and economic structures that uphold and promote this level of inequality trace their roots back to slavery and its aftermath. If today America promotes a particular kind of low road capitalism, a union busting capitalism of poverty, wages, gig jobs, and normalized insecurity, a winner take all capitalism of stunning disparities, not only permitting but rewarding financial rule bending, a racist capitalism that ignores the fact that slavery didn't just deny Black freedom, but built white fortunes, originating the Black-white wealth gap that annually grows wider. One reason is that American capitalism was founded on the lowest road there is. And I mean, they discuss this discuss the wage gap all the time, which is why they feel like, at least people in the Black community, including myself, I feel like we should get reparations, but they don't want us to do that because it wouldn't be a gap anymore, and we would have the money. We would be the ones that have the money, and I wouldn't say the power because they will make sure that we wouldn't have the power, but money does a lot of wonders for people. But like I said before this, like, we're not asking for much. We're asking for to be treated fairly. But I feel like that's never going to happen, and that's never going to be the case. They are trying to balance the scales a bit. It's a lot to unpack on chat. Yeah, I got you. Thank you. I got you, Lisa. I have to do my research. Exactly. But I know Biden, he's trying to make sure the 1% or whatever, they like you said, it balances the scales. So I'm just trying to see how when it takes effect, how everything's going to come together. And it just makes me a little nervous because, we have the presidential election coming, in 2024. And, a lot of people, when they're getting to office, they end up reversing shit. So it's just like, I'm nervous about it. I am really nervous. I'll send you a voice memo. Thank you, Lises. But it also talks about, a lot of the rebellions that took place. And so they made sure, like, okay, in order to do this, we're going to do this. We're going to write laws or whatever. So that way there no longer can be any rebellions. They'll have a disadvantage. Oh, hold on, y'all. Sorry, y'all. That was my son. Oh, let me see. Exactly. Low credit impact the lower income communities. Okay. That's a fact sheet, but I don't really understand it either. Okay. Gotcha. Let me see. What else? It talks a lot about politics. Especially talks about Trump in here as well, and his little strategy and what he did. And what he's probably still trying to do to this day. Because on the last page, on page 208, it says, in which case the price of equality, or at least of the promise of an equal society, is vigilance against those who would make government the tool of hierarchy. And in turn, we must recognize that the struggle to secure democracy against privilege on the one hand, and to secure privilege against democracy on the other, is the unresolvable conflict of American life. It is the push and pull that will last for as long as the republic stands. There's just a lot in here that just made me so upset. So upset. They would use us, do whatever they want, and to this very day they still do whatever they want. And there's no repercussions. They get a slap on the wrist and that is it. They're back in their homes, just relaxing, chilling, eating popcorn and whatnot. But while we are constantly getting killed by police officers and the Proud Boys and all that stuff. And just random people, if we go to the wrong fucking house, we get shot. Like that, it just pisses me off. But I like this fact too, which made me feel like maybe this will happen here. And I feel like it's only a matter of time. I had highlighted this. This is on page 110, the chapter of fear. But let me get to this comments real quick. Hold on. Sorry. To them, that is asking a lot. Like my wife says, when someone is standing on your back, the act of attempting to stand up straight is seen as an act of aggression by the one using you to stand on. Right. Right. I agree. Yep. And they don't want to talk about how it only takes one time of missed payments to tank your score for 7 years. That's a good point. Yep. Right? Totally rigged. Mm-hmm. Or no one talks about how at the beginning of COVID they closed people's accounts left and right, no matter if they were in good or bad standing, mostly good standing, and it tanked people's credit scores. I just hate credit scores in general. Like, other countries don't have this. Why do we have it? Why do we need it? I don't like this. It puts us in a place where they make sure we stay in our place. That's what this whole shit, the whole thing is. It's for certain people to stay in their place. Period. That's why it's so hard for me to read these things. I get so mad. Yep. I was pissed reading this too, and I'm like, man, what the hell? But when I said this is eventually, I feel like this will happen here. I think it will. It's just a matter of time. Like I said, it's on page 110 where it says, in establishing their own nation, Black rebels had accomplished what the scholar Michael Ralph Trulot had described as the unthinkable. After all, Haiti became the first and only country in the Americas where enslaved Africans threw off their shackles, fought for their freedom, defeated European powers, established their own nation, and pledged to defend their freedom and independence until their last breath. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that could happen here. It may happen here. I talked to one of my professors. Actually, he came to my store trying to get a book or whatever, and he remembered my face or whatever. He was asking me how I was doing, and I was just asking him how he was doing. And yeah, he's a historian. He mostly goes to China, and he's gone to Africa to study as well. And we were just talking about this certain particular topic of how I feel like that war will happen on American soil, but I don't know when. And he says it might not happen the next 2, 10, 15 years, but it's eventually going to happen by the way things are going in this country, because he said that there had been progress that's been made, but it seems like as the years go by, it's regressing and it keeps regressing. He gave examples about Ron DeSantis. He gave examples about Texas, and how it's only a matter of time when people aren't going to take this shit no more. He didn't say those particular words, and some big things will have to happen, and a huge thing it has to make a huge impact for things to change and to stay and to keep elevating to something better, to America to be actually a country where there is equality, and not for it's equality only for some people, but for all. So it was a great conversation. It was nice seeing him again. Let me see. Yeah, other countries don't have credit scores. Not all of them. Everything is based literally if you have cash, and if you have the cash, you buy your home, and that's it. In the last financial collapse, not one white-collar criminal saw one day behind bars, but our people are being gunned down in the street for little or nothing. Right. Literally, if you just walk down the street, they'll say, oh, I feel threatened. I mean, I gave an example in this book of when a guy was at the park and he was bird watching or taking pictures of birds, and a white woman came into the park and she had her dog not on the leash, and he told her to put her dog on the leash, and then she called the cops saying that he was harassing her or whatnot when he was just bird watching. And they believed her. I hate it. Me too. I've been angry nonstop since yesterday. Well, extra mad. If you don't like credit scores, just wait until they fully integrate social credit scores, and it is definitely coming. If not already here, cancel culture is just the beginning of it. Ugh, God. I'm so sad about how Haiti is now, which I think is because of U.S. interference as well. Right. When we interfere with shit, we destroy the country. We destroy everything. We destroy everything that they've built. And all it is about power and control. If the US interferes in something, like they've taken people's territories. Like if you think about Taiwan and how China wants Taiwan back, we took that. But, and I don't know. America, the government that we have, they just like taking shit. And there is no type of repercussions. They will take land from indigenous people. They will take land and kill Black people without no hesitation and just go home like nothing happened. Not to integrate, I mean initiate. Okay. Babies, they do, but they are different criteria. The problem with our country is that so much of the system is racially biased. They use measures that go against people of color. Yeah. Social credit scores, what is that? UK has a credit system, but it's so different. It's from 0 to 100. Germany, too. But the UK and Germany were a part of colonialism. You had Germany go into Africa and go into the Congo in order to get blood diamonds. They did a lot, like when I was studying about King Leopold and what he did in the Congo, how he would dismember people if they didn't find what he wanted. And Germany is attached to the UK because, yeah, their whole family is connected, of course. So that doesn't surprise me at all. And then as far as the US and the UK is because, well, everything, the British came here and had power, but then of course America and Britain wanted to dismantle with the, American Revolution. So there's that. He could have gotten shot for that. The bird watcher. Yeah. U.S. is still mad at Haiti for becoming the first free Latin American country and the first free Black country and the first country to abolish slavery. Yeah. They don't like that. So they're trying to do anything and everything in their power to destroy it. South Korea has a credit score system as well. Huh. I wonder how. I'm curious to how all their credit works. But if you think about it, like, they make sure people don't get ahead. Like, if you think about when you, like, file an application or whatever, which it does talk about early on in the book, the first couple chapters that we read last month, where the couple was trying to get married, but they were trying to have a checklist of their race, and they didn't want to do that. I don't like this system. I don't like that system. Why do we have to put a check mark against if we're Black, if we're white, or whatever? Which I know the answer. They're trying to make sure, like, oh, if they're white, they're fine. If they're Black, oh, we need to give them this. This is the only thing they can qualify for. Like, I'm tired of the little check boxes. That's one problem and one thing that I think should be could be rid of. Like, everyone's supposed to be equal, right? Why do I have to pay, like, literally when I apply for a job or anything, I have to identify either Black, Latino, or Indigenous, whatever. There's a whole bunch, like a long list. White, like, that shouldn't even be a thing if there's supposed to be equality in this supposed, land of the free country, Exactly, racial bias everywhere. Davies, definitely. The U.S. also destroyed Libya. It was once the richest, most successful country in Africa, and the U.S. turned it into a failed state in less than a year. I'm not surprised. So tired of the check boxes. Right. Why do we have check boxes? It's worse than that. Haiti had to pay France because France said they lost money because they no longer had Haitians enslaved. Make it make sense. Ugh. Good gracious. The Atlantic slave trade, all that has literally destroyed countries, has destroyed families that will always be. Look, how many years, if you think about all this damage that they've done, and like if we force them to, I don't even know if they would want to change it, but I don't even know how all that would even take place because they done so much fucking damage. It just, how can you repair it? And then people have the nerve to see this country as colorblind. Please, oh, I hate when people say that. I don't like the fact, like, even when I was at work, which I talked to this lady a lot. She's a regular, And she's like, I was born, I look at people like they're just people. I don't see color. And I'm like, no, I don't like when people say they don't see color. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You do see color. I mean, you're not like you said, A. Davis, like colorblind. Like, I don't know. I don't like that statement where people say I don't see color. You do see color. You do. Say not see. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Our country definitely sees color. 100%. And they will remain to see color, and then they will judge us based on the color of our skin, because that's all they've learned. That's all they know. That's what's been ingrained since slavery, and they will keep ingraining that, and nothing will be changed. The French government finally acknowledged the payment of 90 million francs in 1888, and over a period of about 70 years, Haiti paid 112 million francs to France, about 560 million in 20. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about this. In Puerto Rico, the enslaved people had to work 2 more years after emancipation, and reparations were paid to the slave owners. The French receiver. What? Ugh. Let's talk about. Because they fought to not be enslaved and won. I literally cannot believe Haiti had to pay France. My brain is about to explode. People are just assholes. The Portuguese received reparations. All these people receive reparations for owning other humans. I'm so done. I'm so fucking done. I'm so done. Like, at this point, I'd rather just live somewhere where I don't have to be bothered with nobody. I just have to fend for me and my family. And just live in peace and just not deal with shit. Stupid shit like that. It's just, yeah, yes, right, yes. It's pure madness. Yes, I agree. It is pure madness, and it makes me sick. It makes me ill. Like, literally, after reading these chapters, I had a huge headache. I still do, just discussing this, because it upsets me to the point where they think that this shit is okay. That's one thing that I cannot stand, and I don't understand. I don't understand it. Like, I don't. Oh, sorry, also in my eye. It just upsets me to my core. And how the fact, like, in our government, people still look at us as if we're criminals and we're not people at all. And that we're just, like, they could care less about us. They could fucking care less. But they make sure they used us. They made sure they used us for their financial stability. They made sure of that. And now that they are well and good, they're going to make sure we stay in our place. They make sure. They don't want us to gain not one thing. Thank you for this conversation. This is so much nonsense online. I love conversations that mean something. These are important matters. Yes. Like, I'm glad that I'm starting to read this and that we're reading it slowly. Like, I tabbed this book up already. There could be a lot more, but I did a lot of underlining. I put sticky notes everywhere. So I'm glad that we're having these talks and these discussions, because they're definitely important, and who knows who will have access to these books anymore, Who knows? Yeah, absolute madness. There were crimes against humanity. How are we supposed to just ignore these atrocities? I don't care if it's what was done that long ago. There are ramifications, right? Where's the justice? Gee, I learned so much right now. I cannot. Reparations for enslavers, but we can't get some paycheck for centuries of housing, job, education, discrimination. Right. We can't get not one damn thing. Not one. But I think we're going to end it because we can just talk all day about just these few chapters that we read. But this was a great discussion. We will be continuing on with the next chapters 8 through 11 for next month, and we'll have a discussion the last week or the last Friday of each month. But for next month, it's chapter 8, citizenship, chapter 9, self-defense, chapter 10, punishment, and chapter 11, inheritance. But thank you all for coming to this discussion. It was a great discussion. Now, will I say I'm not happy about what's taking place, what had taken place, and what is still occurring today. I'm not happy about it. I still feel like there's a lot of things that need to be done, but I feel like now is a time where, as a people, we need to come together and figure out what the fuck we're going to do, because they're still trying to keep us in our place. They're still trying to make sure that we don't get any type of gain whatsoever in this country, and that is a huge problem. I've been seeing it a lot. I've seen like a recession, which he talked about it is coming, and I feel like they are doing this intentionally in order to make sure Black businesses, particularly, do not survive. You can see a lot of things happening where a lot of businesses are closing, and they're trying to pretty much not only scare just small businesses but Black-owned businesses as well. So this is another scheme that they're trying to do where we stay in our place, y'all. So it's just where do we go from here? Like I don't know, but hopefully we can come with some type of solution and what we can do as a people and demand the things and stuff that we deserve for what our ancestors have gone through and what we're still going through to this very day. But yeah, I'm probably going to end this live. Let me finish these. Oh, I scream every day. Oh, make you want to scream, don't it? My blood pressure is going up. I'm sorry. I refuse to let people forget. Right. Thank you. I'll do what I can to catch up. This was excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. I'm glad you're doing this. Thank you. I appreciate it. It is frustrating, but take a few deep breaths and be glad that you are informed. That is worth something. Yes. Whew. But thank you all for joining. Have a great evening. I was thinking about doing some sprints tonight, but I am tired. And if you haven't noticed, I'm a little bit sick because of the weather changes. But thank you all for coming. I really do appreciate you all. Yep, yes, I will choose joy because of what my ancestors have gone through for me to be here. Yes, that's a good aspect of that. Yes, a good insight of that, of we need to honor our ancestors. I like that. Take care of yourself. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Have a great night. Bye, everyone.